After 3 days of inspiring presentations, the last one of this Inspirational 21 is someone who describes himself in LinkedIn, and let me read, as an experienced C-level executive with a proven track record of creating growth and managing teams in the entertainment industry. So that's not easy. That's not easy, having so much experience. He considers himself a strong business development professional, skilled in digital strategy, management, content strategy, marketing strategy, and international expansion. So Mark GARETON, he's based in LA in California. He has spent exactly 26 years and 3 months at Warner Bros. And he is Chief Executive Officer at Gari Productions, consultant in content production and distribution globally. Mark, welcome. Thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Susanna. So the topic is pretty big today. Well, first of all, you shouldn't believe everything that's written on LinkedIn, but the reality is that I've spent about 26 years of my life working for Warner Brothers, and the last year setting up my own production company. And when we discussed about what could be a topic of interest for the conference, we thought that the evolution of the film and TV business in the world could be a subject that, because it's evolving so fast, could resonate with the audience. So, I mean, of course, in 30 minutes, I'm not going to be able to give you a deep dive into what this evolution is, but I'm trying to structure the conversation into big blocks. So the first one is pre-pandemic. The box office was actually growing around the world. You still have, the US as the largest territory, then China, and then you have a group of countries with Japan and the UK in like the 2 billion box office range, and then you go a little lower to 1 billion, where you have another group of 5 countries, and then Spain is actually in the top 10, depending on the year, 7 or 8. That's interesting in a way that growth in the US was slowing down, and you could see emerging markets growing their box office. And it was giving a very interesting information to the world. That information is that content could start to travel from the country of origin to the rest of the world in a much faster way. So historically, only the American movies will travel around the world and deliver about half of the box office of any market. Exceptions are China, of course, where it's heavily regulated, Bollywood in India, where India drives 90% of the box office, or Indian movies drive 90% of the box office. But when you look at every other market in the world, you typically find a balance between US films distributed by the large Hollywood studios and local films distributed by the local distributors in cinemas. And in the past, those Spanish movies or French movies or German movies or Japanese movies were not really finding any audience anywhere in the world. And then Netflix started, and Amazon followed, and Disney Plus, and HBO Max. And you started to see an evolution of where the audience could find the content. And what I'm saying is, if you go back 10 years ago and you were trying to find an Almodovar movie in the US, it was very hard. You had to go into a very specialty stores and try to find a DVD of any of his brilliant movies. And that was very difficult because the audience, the public, had to go and find the content. And I mean, again, out of 30, 40,000 different titles in a video store, it was very hard to go and find that Almodovar movie. The internet and the algorithm and all the data that is used to track what you do provides an opportunity for platforms like Netflix or Amazon to serve you content. And that's the biggest evolution, is that now it's not the audience looking for the content, is that the content is finding its audience. The content will actually, based on what you've watched in the past, if you started to watch a French movie and you're in the US, it's highly probable that the next time you log on, the platform, the algorithm, will actually serve you a Spanish movie or a German movie because you've already indicated that you have an interest in foreign movies. So that big evolution in the ability for the content to travel outside of the country of origin has also created an evolution of how movies are financed. Not that much into the financing of a movie is a direct relationship to the rights that are granted. So in the past, typically a distributor will buy rights for a movie. So if you have, let's say, in the country of origin, you are a producer of an independent film, and that topic may have been discussed earlier today, but fundamentally, you're an independent producer, you have a great script, you have a great director, you work with the director and find a cast, and then you need to finance your movie. So the way you'll finance your movie is you're going to find a distributor for exhibition, for someone is going to take the rights to distribute this movie into theaters. And they will give you money for that. They will pay in advance. Then you're going to find a distributor who's going to look after the distribution of the movie on DVD or on what we call digital transactional. So typically Apple or any of those platforms where you pay $14 or 14 euros to own the movie, or you can pay €5 and rent the movie. So that's a second distributor. First window is theatrical, cinemas. The second window is home entertainment transactional. You pay a fee. The third window is pay TV. So there will be, Canal Plus in France, HBO in the US, Movistar in Spain. They will pay some good money to have the exclusivity to broadcast the movie on their linear platform in the pay TV window, which is typically 12 months. After that, you will sell your movie to free-to-air television. And that could be, TF1 or M6 in France, any broadcaster in the US, Antena 3 in Spain. They will give you, as a producer, again, a certain amount of money for that. And after that first cycle, you go into what we call second cycle. So second cycle is, it could be a second run on pay TV, a second run on free-to-air television, or it could be what is called syndication in the US, or a sell to a streaming platform like Amazon or Netflix. So you have a certain number of windows to monetize your film, and you try to get as much money upfront, and once you've collected enough money to produce your movie, then you start production. You start shooting your movie. That's for the country of origin. Outside of the country of origin, then you try to sell your movie, all rights, all those rights I've just described, if it's a Spanish movie, you try to sell it in France, in Italy, in Germany, in the UK, eventually in the US, or everywhere in the world. Before Netflix and Amazon, it was impossible to sell with one contract to the world. You have sales agents who would help, but it was very difficult to sell the entire world. Fundamentally, because it was very difficult for the movie to reach an audience, a Spanish movie to reach an audience in the US, as I described in the Almodovar example. So you go and sell each of these countries. Again, that gives you some money, and you have all of that money to make your movie. But when Netflix comes in or Amazon and say, I really like your movie, I can try to buy all those windows outside of the country of origin, outside of Spain if it's a Spanish movie. And for that, I'm going to give you a good amount of money, a significantly high percentage of your production cost. So I'm helping you making your movie. But for that, I also want some window in the country of origin. So for that, I'm going to try to go and buy, of course, the second cycle. That's my natural position. But can I buy the free-to-air TV? Can I buy the pay TV? And then I'm actually buying every single window that's after theatrical and home entertainment, or what we call the transactional window. So transactional is when the consumer pays a certain amount of money for one experience at the movie. You buy a cinema ticket, you rent the movie, or you buy the DVD, or you buy the movie online. That's transactional. So Netflix or Amazon or Disney Plus or HBO Max will actually buy everything after that window in the country of origin and the rest of the world. Great upside. The upside is that you guaranteed as a producer that your movie is going to be made. You just need to find a distributor in the country of origin, a theatrical distributor. Someone will take your movie to the cinemas, but the amount of money that Netflix and Amazon are going to give you for all those windows I've just described is usually the amount of the film budget, or a little bit more than that. And that's great because you have, your movie is going to be made. It's going to be seen by the world audience, and that's a significant improvement versus the old model. The challenge with that is, as a producer or as a talent in the movie, you have no upside. By upside, I mean you have no money above, you have no chance to earn another euro in addition to your fee that's in the production budget. And let me explain that. So if the movie should do, 300,000 admissions in Spain, that's a certain amount of money that's shared between the exhibitor, the cinema. Typically, they keep about half of the cinema ticket price you pay. So, if you pay €7 to go to the movies, then 3.5 euros are going to stay with the exhibitor, with the cinema, and 3.5 euros are going to go to the distributor. The distributor is going to take a fee, typically between 10 and 20%, and give the rest to the producer. So if the movie, instead of doing $2 million box office in Spain, does $5 million box office, there is a lot more money going back to the producer. And that's great because that's your upside as a producer. That's where you make your real money. And often the key talent in a movie are what we call participants. So they will also receive a share of that money. But then, when a movie is sold on DVD, also, if it's performing better than the plan, you get more money from the DVD sales. And the numbers are a little bit different, but again, fundamentally, it's a share of what the consumer is spending. A retailer will keep 30 to 50%. The distributor will take what's left, take a fee from that, and give the rest to the producer. So the better the performance of the movie, the more money you make as a producer. And then comes in the interesting window: pay TV, free-to-air TV. Those deals, historically, were based on box office. So the better box office the movie is doing in the country, the higher is the rate for pay TV or free-to-air television. And that's how, as a producer, again, the better performance of your movie, the more money you make. Same with free-to-air television. So in the old model, it's hard to sell all those tiny windows, but if the movie does great, you make a lot of money. In the new model, because you've already sold all those windows for a set amount of money, the great news is that your movie is made, but the only upside you have as a producer is the box office. Because there'll be no higher price for pay TV, no higher price for free-to-air TV, no higher price for all those rights outside of the country of origin, because all of that is already locked in. And that's the fundamental evolution of what's going on in the film industry. If I pause for a second to talk about the television market, again, taking the US example, historically, in the US, a producer will come up with an idea of a TV show. They'll make a pilot, so they'll have to find the money to pay for the pilot, and then they present the pilot to the networks in the US. And the networks will choose a pilot and eventually order 2 or 3 more episodes from that pilot. Then they will air those episodes, and if the rating, if the audience is high enough, they will order the next 6 episodes or the next 12 episodes, and which we call the front 12, the 12 first episode of the season, which is typically between September and Christmas. And if the audience is still good, then they'll order the back 9 or the back 12, which are the second half of the season, aired typically from February to May. Those are the normal cycles. Those deals in television were made, again, based on sharing the revenue that the broadcaster is expecting to make by serving advertising around your TV show on television. So the more audience, the more money the broadcaster is getting from the advertisers, and the more money is then shared back with the producer. But again, if you're a producer of a TV show, it's a super risky business. You spend money to make the first episode, you don't know if you're going to sell it, If you sell it, then you're going to make 2 episodes. It's so you can't, it's hard to keep all your actors and talent on standby because you don't know how many episodes they're going to make. But if it's a big success like Friends and it ends up being 10 seasons and 240 episodes, then you're basically sitting on a gold mine. Of course, in addition to the broadcast in the country of origin, the TV show will travel to foreign countries. And broadcasters in France and Spain and every country in the world would then pay good money for that TV show that's already a success in the US, or that will fit the audience in your own country. But that's money that's going to the producer, to the distributor and the producer. But again, it's based on the success and the popularity of your TV show. Again, it's a risky business because you don't know how many episodes you're going to do when you start. But if the performance is good, you make good money at the end of it. Fast forward and Netflix comes in and Amazon and Disney Plus and HBO Max and so on. They like the idea. They're going to order the entire season. So they basically sit down with the producer and the director and say, we like what you're doing. We like the arc of the story. We think you have a great 9, 12, 24 episode season. We want to give it a shot. And here is the money to produce the entire 24 episodes. So again, as a filmmaker, or as a storyteller, a producer, a director, it's super exciting because you know that what you have in your head is going to see the light of day across the entire story, the entire first season, and that the world is going to see it. The bad news is, if that TV show is Casa de Papel or Lupin, that will reach, I think, 89 million households on Netflix in the first 4 weeks. It's a massive success, but you're not making more money. Because all the price, all the money, all the fees for the actors and the directors and the producers, the entire cost of that season was actually locked in before starting to shoot the film, or the TV show in this case. So again, upside is your entire season is going to exist and be seen by the world. And if there is a season 2 and a season 3, you can always negotiate an increase, but it's not going to be a massive upside. The downside is that if you're doing a show and you have that brilliant idea and it's extremely popular, you are not making very large amount of money that the old model used to give you. So again, if you look at the evolution, cine and television, what the streamers like Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and so on have brought to the creative community is the security that the film or the TV show is going to be made with the means, with the money that is required to tell a great story in 2 hours or in 24 episodes. The downside is that the amount of money everybody in the chain, in the creative chain, is going to make is set at the beginning and is not rewarded according to the performance of the story you've told. So that's probably the biggest evolution that happened recently in the world. Someone discussed, has COVID accelerated the move of movies from the cinema into a streamer? Or, are those windows? HBO Max announced yesterday that in the 9 countries where they will launch HBO Max in Europe, it will be a 45 days window. So the movie is going to be in theater for 45 days. And after the 45 days, it's not going to be available on any other platform, no pay TV, no free-to-air TV, absolutely no availability except on HBO Max. The strategy is to get you to subscribe to HBO Max. So, you become a subscriber and you're a long-term subscriber of the service. So it makes sense from the platform's standpoint. But then it brings a question for the producers. And you may have followed the Scarlett Johansson Disney lawsuit in the US. What happened is that Scarlett Johansson signed a contract to be the star in Black Widow. And for that, she got paid, a big amount of money. But in addition to the fee that she received as an actress, because she's a participant in the movie, she would receive what we call gross percentages. So she would receive money from the box office. So if the movie does $300 million at the box office worldwide, she'd get a certain amount of money. If the movie does $1 billion, then she'll make a lot more money as a bonus payment based on the box office performance. Then the pandemic happens. So studios like Disney or Warner Brothers have to make a decision about what they do with the movie. Do they wait for people to go back into theaters and the pandemic is over and you have a movie that has a chance to do $1 billion or $2 billion that like those big movies did in 2019? But it's complicated because you already spent $200 million making that movie, and that movie is sitting on the shelf, and it's costing a lot of money in financial, in interest and so on. So or you take that movie, you don't wait for the exhibitor, and you put it on your platform directly without a theatrical window. That's complicated because all those people who are expecting to make money from the box office are not going to make any money. And it's a movie you've actually created for an experience in a theater. You spend a lot of money making sure it looks great, so you want the people to enjoy it in a very big room with great sound, not at home or on a cell phone. So you have a hard decision to make. And you've seen all the studios, Warner Brothers, Universal, Disney, trying different models and different things. But what happened in the case of Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow is that the decision was made to release the movie in theaters and to put it on Disney Plus at the same time. So, of course, what happened is that the box office did not reach $1 billion. It reached a very decent number for the movie, but a decent number in the pandemic. So Scarlett Johansson didn't get the bonus she was expecting, assuming the movie will do probably $1 billion at the box office. And with that, because the movie is available on Disney Plus, a lot of people didn't go to the movies, they just watch it at home, and they were very happy with that experience. So Scarlett Johansson sued Disney, and she had no chance to win the lawsuit because the reality is Disney didn't violate any contract. It was perfectly in Disney's, it was Disney's decision how they would release the movie. But what Scarlett Johansson was trying to do, she was trying to raise awareness about how do you get a fair price for performance on a platform. So if you're Disney Plus and you put Black Widow on your platform the same time Black Widow is available in cinemas, you get a lot of new subscribers. And new subscribers are extremely valuable for any listed company. That's the way Netflix got to the top 20 biggest market cap in the world. It's because there is a value of the subscribers that they have, the long-term value of the subscriber. But if you're Scarlett Johansson, you're not getting your bonus because there is no reward for how many new subscribers are coming to the platform, or there is no reward for how many people are watching that film on the platform. The only money she gets was her first fee and then a share of the box office. So that's the awareness she was trying to raise. And the case was actually settled, and now Disney and Scarlett Johansson are very happy. So you can expect Black Widow 2 to come, in 2 or 3 years. But it created, it confirmed a precedent that was created by Warner Brothers when Warner Brothers decided to release Wonder Woman 1984 at the same time in cinemas and on HBO Max. And Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins, who are the director and the lead character actress in the movie, again, they had a fee for making the movie, and then they had, being participants, they had a share of the box office. The movie was released during the pandemic in cinemas, at the same time on HBO Max. It didn't do the $1 billion box office worldwide it was planning to do. I think it did about 300 million, which is a good number in the pandemic, but not what it should have done. But Warner, from day one, decided to pay the bonuses to Patty and Gal at the level of if the movie had done $1 billion at the box office. So still, financially, it's okay for all the participants, but it doesn't answer the fundamental question of how do you get a fair reward for the amount of business your film or your TV show is creating on a digital streaming platform, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Netflix, or Amazon. And that is going to be the one question that the world need to answer, because more and more content is now created and exists directly on platform. Platforms are a fantastic medium to get a story and show it to the world. But this dynamic of there is no upside if the content you're creating becomes incredibly valuable for the platform because it drove more subscribers, or it got so many views that subscribers are staying on the platform instead of jumping to another platform, which are the two key elements, financial elements for a platform, customer acquisition and customer retention. if you have a piece of content that plays on both and you're not rewarded for that, there's something unbalanced in the relationship between content creator and distribution or pipelines. And that dynamic for 100 years worked very well. Everything was based on sharing revenue. So the bigger the success of your film or television show, the more money everybody was making. But today we're in a world where if you do content for platform and your content is doing fantastic business, the platform benefits way more than the creative community. And that needs to be rebalanced. And that's going to be one of the big subjects of the coming year. So probably the next evolution of the industry of cine and television. I believe that's about half an hour. So I don't know, Susanna, if there are questions or if you want me to discuss any other topics.
Let me go. Thank you very much, Mark. Let me go to the questions because we have some questions from our audience. Pablo asks you, what do you think about the real possibilities of a branded content being bought by an OTT platform like Netflix, Prime Video? Do you have an example that you can share with us beyond Red Bull?
So I missed the question. What kind of content?
What do you think about the real possibilities of a branded content being bought by an OTT platform?
Okay, so that's interesting because in the world of advertising, historically you would shoot a commercial that's good for a brand, and you would then pay a lot of money to get your ad served or distributed on television, on linear television, or any of the digital platforms. So you're an advertiser, you create a 30-second commercial, and then you buy media in millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. I think BMW was the first one to do it about 10 years ago. They said, you know what? We can tell longer, better stories. We can create content in a longer form that's just entertaining to watch. And you spend more money because you're now making 8 minutes or 10 minutes instead of 30 seconds, but you don't have to buy media because that content will be on YouTube or Twitch or any digital platform around the world, and then get the number of views you would typically get by buying media in television. So, you expand that to Red Bull, you expand that to longer form content. And for me, it's not about, you create the content because you have a story to tell about your brand. And the historical advertising format of 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds may be way too short to do that. So I don't think you can lie to the audience. You cannot lie to the public. So if what you're saying is kind of true to the value of the brand, then your public is going to enjoy a 30-minute or half an hour. And if it's good content and people are very happy to watch it, then you will find platforms willing to pay for it. I use the joke about, I think if you go back to when Eon Production and MGM restarted the James Bond franchise in the mid-90s with GoldenEye, and it was the first Pierce Brosnan James Bond. Some people came out of GoldenEye saying that was a great advertising for Heineken, BMW, Bollinger. So it was like a succession of product placement and brands. Forget the brands. People really enjoyed the movie because it was a great movie. But you can take that logic of product placement or advertising and branding exercise and make a very long form program, as long as if it's good quality and if it's serving a purpose for the audience, then distributors are going to pay for it.
Next question. After so many years and knowledge, experience, why did you decide to leave the big companies and create your own?
So that's a very personal question in the sense that I'm at an age where my family is kind of all over the place, all over the globe, and I wanted to spend more time with them. They're in Spain and France and the UK, so I wanted to spend more time in Europe. I think it goes back to what I said earlier. Warner Brothers was created in 1923, and it had a fantastic history of being a fantastic place to create content, being film or television, or actually later in time games. It became a major publisher of games. So Warner Brothers was known in Hollywood as a great place to make content. But in addition to that, if you're coming from the business side, which is my case, I graduated in marketing, and I joined the company as a marketer, knowing very little about film and movies, but that was 26 years ago. Warner not only was creating fantastic content, it was an amazing marketing and distribution place. It was always at the forefront of trying new marketing techniques. It was always looking for more distribution opportunities. And that company, Warner Brothers being part of Time Warner was a content-only company. Time Warner will make content and then distribute the content. That was the essence of the company. AT&T came in with a very, very strong strategy of direct-to-consumer. So in the mind of AT&T, you're the largest telco in North America. You have 130 million subscribers. Every time a subscriber leaves AT&T to go to T-Mobile or Sprint or another carrier, you lose, we were talking about long-term value of a subscriber, you lose thousands of dollars of revenue because every month you were charging for your phone and your broadband and so on. So those bills were in the hundreds of dollars every month. So if you lose a subscriber, those are thousands or tens of thousands of dollars long term. But if now you have 5G, you have devices, you have a network, and you have content like HBO as a service, and you bundle HBO as a service with your telephone service, people may stay on AT&T because they can get HBO for free or at a discount. And when AT&T bought Time Warner, the company pivoted from being a content creator, marketer, and distributor of content to fundamentally become a content creator, because most of the content that's created by Warner Brothers will go or is going on to HBO Max. And the international capability of marketing and distribution of content, somehow the visibility of it is that it would be pretty clear that there'd be a lot less of that in the coming years. So for me, it was the end of a cycle. I've been with the company 26 years. The future in distribution was not as clear as what the previous 75 or 80 years were. And because I spent the last 6 years in production, it was unclear how much resources for local language film will be given to my group. And I've loved so much working with directors and talent around the world that I thought, I can set up my own company, and I can continue to talk to those people and make sure that the stories are told, the movies are made, and then distributed around the world. So that was a kind of a end of a cycle for me. I'm at an age where I can do things on my own. I don't really need a large corporation. But also I believe in independent stories and innovative content. And I think there is a risk that the way the Hollywood studios and the platforms are now aligning, it's easier for them to spend $300 million on the next James Bond or the next Black Widow, but to spend $3 or $4 million on a brilliant story in Spain or Germany or France is going to be a choice they're not going to make. But those stories need to be told, and I'm here to try to tell those stories.
Many good questions. We have time for one last question. What have you learned from traditional TV and film industry that we shouldn't forget now?
So many people are saying traditional linear TV is dead. I was reading a report this morning saying the advertising spend by digital company on linear television increased dramatically over the last 12 months. So if brands like Apple and Google and Amazon and everyone else are spending more money on linear television, it means that there is probably someone in front of the TV. And there is, linear television is going to stay. It's not going to die. I don't think any of the mediums are going to die. It's just there is more content. There are more choices. But linear television has a long way to go for a fundamental reason that I think it's John Marlowe used to say, the same consumer can actually be at certain times looking for a lean back experience and sometimes a lean forward experience. So lean forward is, I know what I want, or I have an idea, I'm going somewhere and I'm going to choose what I want to see. I'm going to search or I'm going to browse and I'm going to find what I want. I want to be actively involved in what I'm going to consume tonight. And many people are doing that, or most people are doing that most of the time. But sometimes you come back home and you're tired, you sit down, you switch on the television, you don't want to make any choices, and linear television is there to serve you something that's actually been programmed, curated, thought through, and maybe exactly what you want. So I think there is something that linear television is telling you, is that everyone is not 100% of the time always wanting to be extremely active in the choices they're making in terms of media. And we should not forget that.
Mark, it has been a pleasure learning from you and listening to your presentation. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.